Oh my God. Okay. You know what? It is 1:45 in the morning. So if you can believe it, I did all the steps necessary to start a live stream except start up my audio software. So for the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever the hell it's been, I've been talking to nobody. Oh, if you didn't know it. Okay, so let me start over from the top. And I appreciate those of you that showed up and stuck around in the midst of silence for nothing. I was quite eloquent. Man, it was one of those things where it was like, wow, for somebody that just got woken up at 1:40, actually, it was 1:20 in the morning, but I decided to go live. I really belted out some very poetic introduction, and now it's lost to the ages. That's great. Good job. Good job, me. So let me start over from the beginning. Maybe I can recreate it. At approximately 1:20 this morning, there was a loud crashing noise in the apartment above me. It sounded like somebody had taken their entertainment center and just kind of tipped it over onto the floor. Now, when this happened, I was in a very pleasant, very deep sleep. But at the time the crash happened, as far as I can tell, I was kind of in a semi-conscious state because I remember kind of being quasi-awake, halfway dreaming. I don't know. So I'm not quite sure if anything was audible prior to this crashing noise. And there has been activity upstairs in the past that has caused me to have to call the police. So, not being 100% sure if what I heard was what I heard because I was half asleep and might have been dreaming, I waited and listened for any secondary noises like running around or screaming or yelling or other noises. There has been some calm walking around, so I mean, it could be a psychopath, I suppose. But there's been nothing else to tell me that something is wrong versus somebody just tripped and fell over or dropped something. So I'm crossing my fingers and keeping my ears open otherwise that nothing more untoward took place. But as I'm sitting there, awake in the middle of the night with some 2.5-ish odd hours until I have to start my workday, I thought to myself, well, I'm bored and I have nothing to do in the 21st century. So what else should I do but broadcast myself on the internet? Very, very, messily, as you, those of you that arrived early can tell. If I bother to, I'll go back and delete the dead air of the 5 minutes prior. Thank you, Snub Earth, for alerting me to my folly. Yeah, if you can't tell, I just woke up. There are a couple of steps that are necessary to do a live stream on my computer the way that I have it set it up. And one of the most important ones is I have my audio linked to a set of software that I have to start up separately from Chrome, separately from the video stuff, separately from all the other things. And it's the one that I always tend to forget the last second. So anyway, let me say all those hellos again that I said earlier that you guys didn't hear. And I apologize again. Spoonie the Rebel, Keldrig, Snubbirth, Angelverse, Meh, Cannibalistic Wizard, Zero the Hero 909, Rune Herishin, Kyler, I think somebody else showed up, Bash the Doggy. There was a television show. I don't remember the name of it. It was some like cable sitcom or something. And it had something to do with it was sort of like a Beverly Hillbillies kind of situation, people living in some kind of rich situation or whatever. It had to do with like a family or some kind of business running out of a house or a hotel. We're not talking Faulty Towers, but something similar. Anyway, one of the episodes, I wish I could remember the name of the show. Anyway, one of the episodes had to do with people moving in next door, and they were like a Ozzy Osbourne type rock band that was like messing up the neighborhood. And at one point, they made a complaint to the police or something. And the rich lady in her sort of like cultured voice said to the police, or the official, I forget exactly what it was. They said to the police that their complaint was they stay up at all hours of the night playing terrible music that disturbs us. And I wrote down some of the lyrics. And she says, squash the puppy, squash the puppy, squash the puppy. I saw a truck squash a puppy. It wasn't pretty, but that's what happens in the city. Squash the puppy, squash the puppy, squash the puppy. And for some reason, as you might imagine, I don't remember the name of the show. I don't remember exactly what the scenario was. It was on like cable TV back in the mid 90s or something. But that was burned into my memory. Of all the song lyrics, of songs that never existed, that was burned in my memory. So that's why I said that bash the doggy. You reminded me of that. So there you go. That's how this works at 1 a.m. Ostsan, ex Bubba Hotep, and did I miss anybody? Jordan 250, if I didn't already say. Good morning. Anyway, all of that is just to say hi. I have nothing to do and time to kill for a couple hours. I don't know that I'll do a couple hours. But I looked through my recent library of possible items for examination, and I came across this, and I have no idea if it's any good, if it's any interesting, if it's interesting at all. It is called Ready for a Real Tangible Conversation About Navigating This DEI Climate. And I'm not sure what DEI climate we're talking about, except for the fact that maybe it's slowly dying, transforming, or whatever else because of recent events. Yes, bash the doggy. I'm glad to be a part of a core memory for you. Yes, you know, things like that are what make up my makeup. I don't know why. It's sort of like last night, or I should say, well, I guess technically yesterday afternoon now, almost 12 hours ago when I was on the AAA stream, and we get to that game that Drunkle put together of just naming movie quotes. And I knew all of them, even though I got the title of one of them wrong. I knew all of them, which is, again, my mind, my core being is made up of useless trivia. Might or might not be useful in the future. I need to end up on a game show or something. Anyway, yeah, just for killing time, I got a 19-minute and 9-second Zoom call with some ladies talking about stuff. So I can't tell you this is going to be anything groundbreaking. Let me check and make sure nothing more interesting is going on in the news of the world, just on the off chance I have something more exciting to talk about. Oh, the armed killer in Pennsylvania is still on the loose. Oh, now he's armed. The escaped Pennsylvania killers. This is a crazy story. This is going to be true crime fodder for a lot of YouTube content creators. And as a marker for those of you in the distant future that might be listening to this, a guy basically just crawled his way out of a Pennsylvania prison, convicted murderer, and has been on the run for like what now? Almost a week or something. So maybe I'll read more about that later. But for now, let's watch something on DEI. I haven't processed the audio on this, so maybe it's terrible, and I can just find an excuse to stop. Let's.
Okay, I think.
Yes.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
I'm Kelly Johnson with
Hi,
Carrot,
Kelly.
and I'm joined by great partners,
Okay.
Latasha Heron-Brock and Devin Owens-Toller.
Okay.
Welcome. We're here to talk about all things navigating this DEI climate right now, and we just wanted to come and have real conversations.
Well, I love real conversations. I'm all for authenticity, intentionality, bringing your whole self to work, creating a culture of change, and a bunch of other things. Let's see. While I'm looking at this here. San, if you don't want to do the DEI thing, what do you think of the reannouncement of VTM Bloodlines 2? I'm wary. I wasn't that I wasn't that jazzed, I should say. I could say I wasn't jizzed either, but I wasn't jazzed about the original plan for it from was it Hard Suit Studios, I think it was. Either way, so the original plan, as far as I understand it, for Bloodlines 2 was it takes place in Seattle, which, as far as like a chaotic World of Darkness kind of situation, I guess you couldn't ask for anything better in real life these days. But here, the setup was what really made me go, because it sounded like a whole bunch of Vampire 5th edition nonsense to me. As far as I'm concerned, Vampire the Masquerade stopped at the 20th anniversary edition of the core book. Though, admittedly, that's just a nice to have. Personally, at 3rd edition and the supplements thereof, for the most part, is where the game was at its best. New WoD and Vampire 5th edition, garbage. Absolute garbage. Anyway, so apparently their idea to try to get around going through the complexities of the first Bloodlines game, where you could play as a member of any of the core clans, was to say, no, you're a thin blood. You are a sign of the vampire apocalypse as the protagonist. And you're going to run around with some kind of whatever powers. And then at some point you could join a clan. The whole thing sounded ridiculous. Did you guys ever see it was a Xbox game? Well, it might have also been like a PS game. It was like X-Men. I want to say it was called like Legacy or something. Anyway, you played as generic teenager character, and you could gather over the course of the game. Your mutant power was to simulate the powers of other mutants. And I mean, it's X-Men Destiny. I think it was Destiny. Anyway, it was the most like you were just a Swiss Army knife character. There was no speciality to you. You didn't have a particular name. It was just generic, and you could be anything. That was it. You're just basically a copycat. The thin blood as the protagonist, and you join a clan. First off, in the lore, at least as far as I understand it, if you are a thin blood in either Camarilla City or certainly the Sabbat, you will be slaughtered for the most part. Or at the very least, if you find somebody who's very humanistic, they will run you out of town on a rail because you are a sign of the apocalypse. So making a thin blood the protagonist in a heavily factioned situation in major city like Seattle makes no sense whatsoever, and dodges really the role-playing aspect of playing the part of a member of a particular vampire clan. So I thought that was ridiculous. That was Bloodlines version 1. Now they've gone the complete opposite direction, as far as I understand it, where you'll be playing an awakened elder. An elder vampire. Of what clan? Don't know. Can you choose it? No idea. Will it matter? I don't know. But instead, you're playing an awakened elder. So basically, the entire thing, as far as I can understand, and they've released so little information, you're going to be like fish out of water. I haven't been awake since the 1200s or something, and now I have to navigate this weird world with horseless carriages and little devices powered by lightning or something like that. And if you're an elder vampire, at least playing under the old time rules, you're basically a demigod. Except that they've introduced mechanics in the recent years of like blood potency, and if you're asleep as a vampire for a long time, the effect of your abilities kind of wanes, so you're gonna have to like relearn your disciplines or something. Plus the fact that the company that is making this thing, the studio that's making this thing, has a track record for making hit and miss games. They're mostly known for like walking simulator, narrative driven stuff. But looking at the footage, it looks like it's supposed to be some kind of like stealth action game. And even the quality of their narrative games previously, I don't know much about them except peripherally, and it's kind of hit or miss. So I'm just wondering, are we actually getting a Bloodlines game, or are we getting a glorified visual novel? I don't know. But I assume that they had to do something with the property. They dumped too much money into it not to try to recoup something from it. So there you go. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that so far. Jaeger Pony, good morning. Noah Essentio, if I didn't already say hello, good morning. I don't think I did. Yeah, short version, I was woken up by a crash in the apartment above me, and I'm awake now, and I'm watching some goofy Zoom call debate panel discussion on DEI stuff. And then Ostsan got me all off track talking about bloodlines. How dare you? How dare you? Let's see. So basically having the powers of the protagonist in the show Heroes. Yeah. Well, I guess he became the protagonist, but wasn't he the villain like Siler or whatever, where he just like absorbed other people's powers or whatever? Yeah, I don't know. Or they came up with a new set of disciplines for thin bloods that are all just bizarre. Anyway, I don't know. I haven't paid attention in any particular way to Vampire the Masquerade in any detailed form since Fifth Ed came out. And I looked at a little bit of it and I was like, nah, I was done. I bought the core book and a couple of supplements to Vampire the Requiem because I was, a loyal little cultist at the time. And I looked through this stuff and I'm like, well, I like how they cleaned up the rules set. I hate the fact it was sort of like when Disney took over Star Wars and got rid of the expanded universe. When White Wolf decided to restart the vampire game line and they just did scorched earth on the lore, on the clans, on the whole 9 yards, just to start over from scratch. Like, oh man. Anyway, okay, let's get back to whatever we're doing here.
Devin, you want to say hello? Tasha, say quick introduction so everybody knows who we are.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Devin Owens-Toller. I lead operations and analytics at Caris by KJE.
Operations and analytics. Okay. Also, good morning, Dom O'Leary. I didn't say. Can't stay, but have a great time. Thanks, Dom. Have a good morning. Or have a good time frame in which you are in, depending what part of the world you're in, because this is the world. I am attached to the world.
My background is in the academic space, PhD in diversity and equity in education.
A PhD in diversity, equity, and education. I guess that would be a thing. Boy, how far has that PhD taken you?
Really excited to have this conversation today.
But wait, background in academics, you have a PhD. So wait, you just you have. So you don't have a career right now, or you just have an education? Okay.
And give you a sneak peek into Evolve.
Okay. Oh wait, no, she said she was part of operations and analytics. Okay, so yeah, sorry, my brain is still waking up. But seriously, a PhD in diversity, equity, and education. DEE. Oh boy.
Well, hello everyone. I am Latasha Heron-Bruff.
Yeah, you are. You're also muffled. Are you broadcasting from a Starbucks?
I am the Senior Vice President of Diversity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement for the Dallas Regional Chamber.
Diversity and engagement, Dallas Regional Chamber. Oh, man. Why? So you got 2 out of 3 that have good audio? Oh, man.
I've been there very close to 3 years now. Background in real estate, nonprofit management.
Real estate and nonprofit management. Okay.
Community engagement, DEI.
Okay. Can you guys understand her on your end? Because I can understand her just, moderately. If you guys can't understand her, and this is going to be, oh man, it's always like that one wheel on the shopping cart, right?
And my job is really to work with our business community in advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we create a region that's the best place to work, live, and do business for all people. So
she's at a Starbucks or something. She's doing this at a Starbucks. Asan, barely hear her, but can hear her. It sounds like she's on the ISS, but I can understand her. Okay, all right. I can't turn this up anymore, can I? No. Okay, we'll grin and bear it. Good gravy.
Thank you for having me.
Latasha, we're so grateful for your partnership. Grateful for you to be here, carve out time today to just come and talk to our LinkedIn audience.
And, you know, sit in the middle of a Starbucks public location and do a discussion debate panel or something. You don't have like an office or, you know, a bedroom you could sit in and blur the background as well. You just couldn't wait to get your coffee.
And really just kind of provide a little bit of a preview into where things are right now as DEI practitioners. All of us spend a lot of time talking to DEI practitioners, those sidebar conversations, talking to senior executives about this current climate, which is very tough.
Why is the climate tough? I'd love to know. And this was posted just within the last week or two, I think. So this isn't anything ancient. I'm assuming we're going to be talking about affirmative action, or at least mentioning it, or maybe the trend lately of cutting the budgets of DEI programs in many corporations, and or the very, at least in the DEI world, high-profile departures of certain major corporate DEI executives in the last couple of months, especially from Netflix and Disney, as well as the Academy Awards and so on.
To navigate. And yet I feel like we might not be having the real conversation.
Oh, okay.
And for those who are joining us and may not know as much about my background,
Sure.
I'm the founder of CARES by KJE. I've been doing this work for over 20 years.
20 years? All right. Well, we have an expert.
Was in a chief diversity officer role for a Fortune 500 company. And for the last 8 years have had the privilege of working with a number of clients.
Huh. You know, when I hear something like that, I have to wonder, have I ever, in the course of the last 7 years of doing stuff like this, have I ever heard from this speaker before? Because that sounds pretty prominent. I don't recall her name or face offhand, but then I have watched a lot of things, so it's possible. I'm curious as to why she didn't name the company that she worked for. Maybe that's professionalism or something. I don't know.
I'm kind of those mid-sized to Fortune 500 organizations in all things DEI, training, strategy, consulting, leadership development.
Wow. All that, and it's all based on legally questionable discriminatory employment practices. That's great.
And so where we are right now today, as I think many of us are trying to figure out how do we navigate the anti-DEI climate. I mean,
how do you, well, I don't know. I guess you take a look at first, what is the argument from the quote unquote anti-DEI climate? And you have to assess if they have any salient points, what are they? And if they do have them, how do you address them to not only become a more effective organization or DEI practitioner, I love to say practitioner, or question whether or not you might be furthering an idea and an industry that is inherently flawed and destined for doom.
Let's be real. There are legislative and judicial decisions that have been made that really impact our ability to do this work effectively and to do it in the way that maybe we've done it in the past.
Yeah, the chickens are slowly, ever so achingly slowly coming home to roost on DEI. It's true. DEI has run roughshod for years now without any seeming checks or balances on what's going on, operating under some kind of weird belief that affirmative action in colleges somehow extends over to private practice. Ugh. And whatever leeway certain Supreme Court decisions of the past might have given to affirmative action programs in private employment, there's one factor that we now know is the big no-no. That's quotas. Anything that looks like a quota is the one thing that there's no out for, legally speaking. And it's only taken a few years for this to be whittled down into clarity for me. But anything else about DEI, any of the rhetoric, any of the high-minded ideas, and so on and so forth, probably aren't actionable in a legal sense because it's all talk. But when you get down to numbers, when you start talking about the mechanics of hiring, if you talk about percentages and timelines and goals and demographics all mixed together, then you're talking a quota. And quotas is the one thing that the Supreme Court and other previous precedent does not allow for. And so, how do you measure the success of DEI, and how does DEI achieve its goals without quotas? That's the real issue that everybody's having to struggle with right now, because it's happening finally after, at least me looking at this for almost a decade. But she's been doing it 20 years. Okay, so I guess for the sake of this panel discussion, are they going to talk about or even describe what are the complaints from the anti-DEI side and what is their answer to them? Because if you're going to do a debate panel, whatever, persuasive essay type thing, you have to at least describe the opposite side of the argument before you're going to tackle it and conquer it with your own quote unquote better arguments.
And so when we get together at Caris Evolve on September 12th, which I hope you all will join us for that, what we really want to do is go beyond the surface, right? And even move beyond those sidebar conversations that a lot of us are having, but come together in community to talk about this in a very strategic way, in a way that allows us to keep things moving forward. So
I can tell that you've worked in corporate spaces for a long time. Also, as Zero the Hero pointed out, and my still waking up brain just now noticed, yes, our top two speakers are using the exact same Zoom background. So I guess they're navigating that space in sync. Bye.
What would you all add to that in terms of the need for real conversations right now?
Oh boy. No. Okay. Well, at least somebody's taking the initiative, because usually when you ask a question on a panel discussion, here's a tip for those of you in the future. If you're moderating a panel discussion of some kind and you ask a question to the ether, immediately thereafter, name the person you want to speak. Otherwise, you're going to get crickets and dead air most often because everybody's too polite to butt in, or they don't actually want to say anything. So you have to really moderate.
Well, I love that. The three of us have talked about that sidebar. You talk about these sidebar conversations. And I'm going to have a real conversation right now, is that I'm in a public place.
I couldn't tell.
So you may hear a little background noise.
just a little. There's only just a little background noise. Seriously, you couldn't be bothered to get your Starbucks and go somewhere else? You don't have a home office? Okay.
But technology sometimes fails us, and we have to shift. I think it's time. This is a relevant topic. All of us are touched by the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And, one of the things we talked about is, for a DEI practitioner, is we need to check in on our people, right? We need to check on our folks who have had, shouldering a lot of this work.
We have to check in on our people who have been shouldering a lot of this work. Because of their emotional labor.
The folks that are leading the work, the folks in our companies and our organizations.
And
it's really time to just level set. How are we? How are we doing? What are we worried about? What do we think the future looks like? And I think this is great for us to have this collective conversation to refuel, re-energize, recommit to the work of diversity and inclusion.
You have said nothing. You have said nothing. Oh my! You can tell. Okay, and she's not alone in this. We're talking about corporate players in DEI, and most of what they talk about is words without substance, concepts without any weight. Because if they actually had to get down to brass tacks, it would all be very short, very simple, and very questionable. So it's one big life coaching session.
Because that need is still ever present. And so I'm just happy that Evolve is happening and that we are partnering with you all because you all do the work. We should be thanking you for what you're doing, and I think it's necessary.
I'm happy to be here. I'm glad we're all here. Let's have a collective conversation, and everybody's cool, and let's all support one another in this important work. Okay.
Thank you, Tasha. We
Really? For what?
really appreciate that.
Do you? How?
I think what I would add is really providing practitioners with the space and opportunity, pun intended, but to evolve, right? So the opposition that we're facing right now, the kind of
Yes.
backlash that we're facing right now,
Yes.
it isn't really all that new.
You're right. You're right. Opposing discriminatory employment practices is not new. It's true. It's been going on. I mean, technically it's been going on in one way, shape, or form for probably centuries. But more pointedly in this country, you can at least point to 1 year in particular where it was definitely opposed, and that was 1964. But we'll get there, I'm sure.
And all, we look back at civil rights leaders and all the things in history.
Yes.
We've always had to reimagine, to adapt, to change our approach.
To change your approach, I wonder if our speaker understands the irony of bringing up civil rights leaders in the context of DEI and saying we have to change our approach.
To really get the work done and to really make change.
So you equate what you are doing with the work of civil rights leaders. I guess you would have to think that way, wouldn't you? You would have to think that you are carrying on the legacy of the civil rights leaders of the past in order to do the work, to justify it in your own minds that you're on the right side of history. I suppose you would have to do that to make yourselves feel good about it.
And I think that some of us can kind of fall into the woe is me, or oh my gosh, this is too much, or the burden, the pressure. We see headlines on a daily basis on our phones.
About, are you going to name any?
On our computers, on our iPads.
You're not going to bring up George Floyd, are you?
And it can really start to mess with our mental state, right? So really us having the...
Could you give us an example of what you're talking about?
Carving out the space to put our phones away, be in a space with like-minded individuals.
Put myself into a bubble,
to really strategize and figure out how we really kind of counteract and what's our game plan moving forward. Okay. This is only a barrier or a bump in the road. We know that DEI isn't going anywhere.
Oh, isn't it though?
We know the importance of it to the business and community.
Do you though? Can you track a actual tangible financial benefit for DEI on the bottom line for most corporations? If that was so, why have most major corporations been so notably cutting their DEI budgets over the last year? Why are major DEI executives either leaving or being let go from other major corporations and concerns? Now, it could all be, and in some cases it likely is, just a new coat of paint on some old policies, changing some terms, working their way out of using the word diversity, that kind of thing. It's true. But there is a growing opposition to DEI as more people realize exactly what it is and what it uses to operate. So you know that this is not going anywhere and you know it's important and so on. Are you at least going to, for the sake of this, entertain or detail what are the opposing arguments to what you do? And how do you answer them?
So really taking the time to create the strategy and plan to continue the movement.
The movement. The movement. Practitioners' movement. Okay.
Yeah. I love what you all are saying. And
Uh-huh.
some things that I feel like I'm seeing within our own DEI practitioner community
Yeah.
is, and I get it. So this might sound critical, but
Uh-oh, don't be critical. Uh-oh, no, no, no. We don't want any opposition. We don't want any doubting Thomases.
I understand where it's coming from. And that
Okay.
is this. We're good at sound bites.
That is highly arguable, but yes, okay, you're at rhetoric and sophistry. Yes.
We're good at sort of the quick encouragement, maybe inspiration, or quick even data points, right? So
Yes, most of DEI advocates, practitioners, and so on that I've heard are effectively corporate life coaches. Yes, I get that.
for those who lead with our hearts, we might give inspiration. For
Uh-huh.
those who are very analytical,
Yeah.
we think a little bit more with our heads, we might provide some really salient data points.
Do you, though? And when you start getting down to data points, that's where you start entering the danger zone. Because when you start talking numbers, when it comes to employment, and you start talking demographics, again, as I've come to learn very soberly over the last several months in particular, that is really the turning point and the risk that companies take when it comes to DEI if they ever start setting metrics that look like quotas, because then you're in trouble.
And we're doing that in passing, right? But we're moving fast, we're going quick. And
you're doing the exact same thing that you are criticizing the movement for right now. Give us something tangible. What are you talking about?
I think that it's time to go beyond the surface. It is time to have real conversations about.
So prior to this, you have not gone beyond the surface. Prior to this, your movement has been nothing but a cursory examination of the corporate landscape. Only now should we have real conversations. I think you're highlighting part of the problem in trying to offer a solution.
About how are we doing this? And I love, hi Fatima, so great to have you here. Welcome, Vana. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Oh man, I wish, if this was like a live stream, I wish I'd been on the chat.
This is fantastic. You all are joining at such a great time because those quick motivational moments, those quick inspirations, or those quick data points are helpful.
No.
But in order to be strategic, we've got to put in more time.
Yes.
And I think also really call the spade and address the proverbial elephant in the room. So
okay, by all means, I really hope you fulfill that one. What is the proverbial elephant in the room?
What thoughts do you all have about how we're going to do that at Evolve, and then even later that day with State of DEI, hosted by the DRC, which is why I'm so glad that our friend Latasha Heron-Bruff is here from the DRC in our partnership. So what would you all add about kind of what you're seeing in terms of even the way, like, I think we have to look in the mirror ourselves as DEI practitioners.
You really do. You really do. What is the elephant in the room? What? Why why are you dangling these things in front of me, but you're not telling me what they're? It's like, stop teasing. What are you talking about?
Because it's time to take a little bit of that polish off.
Time to take that polish off. Then do it. You're the moderator. Why don't you set the example for this conversation? Name the elephant in the room. Be self-critical and reflective. Please. It might actually be beneficial to everybody. Why? Stop saying that you're going to do something and not do it.
Yeah, I agree. You know, one of the things that we do, and you all have been a part of this, we have a DEI Leaders Connect group. And we have what we call these small lunches where we get to talk to our DEI leaders, you know, kind of in a smaller group. And there is concern, but I'll tell you, There are organizations and companies that are still committed to this, right?
Yeah, no. We know there are still organizations and companies committed to this. They're too far in. They're in too deep. If they back up now, then they're making effectively an admission of fault, which could conceivably be used against them in litigation or class action lawsuit. Right. If they keep barreling forward with the current policies and rhetoric and everything else, they're probably digging themselves deeper into potential trouble legally because it's all very questionable. So what do you do? Right? What do you do? That doesn't say anything. Okay. She just said that one of the things that you guys as DEI practitioners do too much of is the rousing, momentary, inspirational speaking. So being a cheerleader perpetually is not helping anything right now because the winds are changing. And what's the first thing that this lady says after having that mild criticism and self-reflection be laid at her feet? She becomes the cheerleader again. Oh no, guys, things aren't that bad. There's still a lot of people in this. And?
Right. And so I think part of it is we need to be talking about it in an affirmative way.
No. Okay. To her credit, Kelly Johnson is at least saying, hey guys, we need to take a more sober look at the state of things, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and in this climate, what to do about it. We don't need perpetual cheerleading. And I'm about to sneeze, I think. Pardon me. It's one of those things where like you feel it oncoming, and then it's like, okay, if I say that I'm going to sneeze, is it going to disappear? And it didn't. So there you go. Also, good morning, Original Shroom, Peter, and Miranda Stone. Good morning. Yes, for the Eaton Nass. Good morning. Yes, for those of you that can't tell from the title, there was a loud crashing noise in the apartment above me a while ago. It woke me up. I couldn't get back to sleep. There were no, as far as I can tell, secondary indications that something terrible had happened upstairs other than somebody just tripped and fell or something. So until I hear a reason to call the police or something, I'm just awake because I'm awake, and here we are. Anyway, you were saying, lady?
Right. We have to be carriers of this message. We have to be advocates. We have to be champions. So as DEI leaders and professionals, we have to make sure that we're coming from a place that shows strength and commitment.
Yeah. Just keep on the line. Don't show weakness. Don't deviate from center. And again, as a note, for those of you that might host panel discussions in the future, if you're going to be the one moderating, you have to set the tone by being the example you want to see out of your guests. So if you are a professional in a space and you're talking about a subject, bring up specificity, give your own direct personal examples, and then ask the same from your panelists. If there's an elephant in the room, if there's any self-reflection to be had, well, that was the moment where Kelly should have given her own take on those things and then asked for similar examples from her guests. Now, if they did not provide them, then it's notable that they won't have provided them. In this case, she left the door completely open, didn't give anything, any boundaries or goals to hit in the conversation. And so this is what we get. Somebody who's just a 100% dyed in the wool, charging forward in this, no ifs, ands, or buts. Kelly's asking for a measured, sober assessment of the situation. And I forget her name now. Tasha is just a true believer. That doesn't help anything.
But also gets real, right? And we have to make sure that we're having these real conversations.
Then have a real conversation. You're not having a conversation. You are all making declarative statements and propaganda. This is not a conversation. You guys are dancing around the issue. Literally, there's an issue there. There's an elephant in the room, and you're not talking about it. Thank you, Keldrig. They must be carriers of the message, like plague rats. It is remarkable, isn't it? It's like you can just see how everybody's just on the cusp of actually being honest with themselves and each other. And it's achingly close. It just one in this particular and I'm not just talking about this particular thing, but in some of the other panel discussions and things I've looked at recently, it's like you can just almost see them coming to the point where they have to be a little bit more pragmatic about the situation. That finally there's an opposition, a real opposition to what they do. And they have to ask, what is that opposition's arguments? What is it they're complaining about? And is there any validity to it that I need to take into consideration as I go forward? All right. Not necessarily making someone an evil arch villain out of it, but really like taking criticism, assessing it, giving it at least its fair hearing. Even if you're going to dismiss it, even if you're going to just be ideologically set and not, at least find out, like, address it. How would you address it?
In the spaces that we hold. And I think this is why Evolve is timely.
Oh my God.
And this is why people want to come to this event, because they want to talk about just what you're talking about here right now.
Okay, I got to find this Evolve thing, if it already happened or is about to happen or something. I'm too curious now. They keep leaning on, well, we'll talk about it at Evolve. Well, you're here now. Why don't you talk about it now? No, we don't want to give it away. The secret sauce. No, okay. I'll have to refine this and see if I can figure out if there's a follow-up or a set of presentations or something.
And to be able to get to the root and do the real work, there has to be an acknowledgement of where we are.
Yeah.
To get to where we're trying to go. So I think this is all very important right now.
Then acknowledge it. Whatever it is, whatever you're talking about, acknowledge it. Is somebody else with a better sound system going to say something worthwhile here?
Yeah. And I think to kind of expand on that and to both of your points.
What points? I mean, I guess Kelly came the closest to having a point, but didn't even.
It's really equipping ourselves with the knowledge and the tools and skills that we need to create these strategic plans. So, for example, we talk a lot about data. We talk a lot about using data in DEI, but how are we using that data? How are we telling the stories of the employees that are in our organizations? And then how are we then connecting that back to the business strategy?
How do you connect that back to the business strategy of quotas for demographic split? I don't know. It's not nearly as complicated as anybody that I've ever listened to has made it. It's always played. This is why every letter that they add on to the D in DEI just really shows the insulative power of avoiding the question. And the question is, what is the diversity element to corporations? It is demographic split. That's it. Do we have enough of the right kinds of people based on the most low-level aesthetics that say nothing about a person? Are you the right color? Are you the right gender? Are you the right orientation? That's it. It doesn't look at individuals. It doesn't assess people on the basis of their merits. It assesses the aesthetic of the workforce. That's it. They keep trying and have been trying this entire time to get away from that simple truth by padding it with all this other gobbledygook. But it doesn't change the root of the entire thing, does it? As much as they try over the years and everything that they've done and tried to make excuses for it. Oh, this current event happened. That's why it's more important now than ever that we do this, that, and the other. It doesn't change the basics. It doesn't change the foundation. And you keep trying to run away from it. You can't. At the end of the day, whether you actually touch off a legal problem or not, fundamentally, ethically, you're always going to come down to discrimination in employment on the basis of demographic. That's it. I have not yet seen a DEI program that doesn't rely on that at its core.
DEI strategy. So really making sure that we are creating that holistic plan, holistic action plan.
Holistic. That's another buzzword they love to use. Authentic, holistic, comprehensive. I haven't heard comprehensive that often.
To really take the work forward.
The work.
So using that data, making sure we have the right resources that we need.
You won't name them.
And building those relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Okay, Kelly, you're at least trying to shepherd the conversation towards something substantive, Irate Bear. So now that your guests have decidedly avoided being real, please be the change you want to see. What is the elephant in the room?
You're on me, Kelly.
Thanks.
There we go.
Yes, I love the conversations that we're even having in
There's no You're not having a conversation. There's
the chat. So we've got Fatima here. We've got D'Amica here. Welcome. Thank you so much for contributing to the conversation. We've got Vana as well. And I love what Fatima is saying in terms of,
really?
You know, in this work of doing DEI, and I talked about this on a recent podcast episode for 24 Carats, but we are so others focused.
What?
I think it's like that invisible bullet point on the job description when it comes to doing this work, right? Like, it's there because I don't think I've ever met a DEI practitioner who is not heavily others focused.
What? I have not met another DEI practitioner, whatever, that is not others focused. Okay, what qualifies someone as an other? And I'm thinking back to a Nicole Kidman horror movie from the early 2000s.
And so we forget to take care of ourselves, and we forget to be vulnerable about where we personally are.
What?
And so thank you for calling that out, Fatima. And
what are you? What?
And yes, D'Amica, it's all about real change.
Are any of you capable of having? Okay. Oh man, this is. I'll give them this. This entire conversation so far is a textbook study of why DEI doesn't work, because no one is willing to actually be honest about what it is that they do and what it is they are trying to achieve. It's all just glad handing, back patting, coach in the locker room before the football game kind of stuff. It's nothing. You're not talking about anything. Give me a strategy. Like detail for me a DEI strategy that you are having to create or formulate in quote unquote this climate. You got close by talking about certain legislators and laws and things that are attacking DEI. Okay, name one, describe their opposition, and either why they're wrong or how you would respond to it. Come on.
Love it.
Love what? What do you want to have happen now? Are you the moderator? What? Okay, we got Well, we got dead silence there for a second, which I'm completely used to at this point. Thank you, Tyrai Deos. Tyrai. Whenever I hear someone use holistic, I think of cults. Want to be a member? Holistic it's one of those buzzwords you hear all the time. It's supposed to sound like very, I don't know, cultured or high-minded or academic or something. And every time I hear it, it's almost lost all meaning. I constantly have to re-look up the word to make sure I can understand the context and does it apply in this situation? Because it's one of those words that's just obscure enough in meaning and implementation in the real world that it kind of just goes right over your head most times. It's a placeholder for having something really descriptive to say. It just sounds smart a lot of the time. And the thing is, and this is unfortunate because it gets so overused by people that use it in the inappropriate way that when somebody does conceivably use it in the appropriate way, it immediately signals to me that this is nonsense. It's kind of one of those things. But yes, holistic, authentic, transformative, impactful, all these words that say really nothing. It's sort of like saying, wow, I find that fascinating, or that's really interesting. It's all these like neutral, diplomatic, doesn't take a stand kind of words. Doesn't tell you anything. Okay, is somebody going to break the silence here?
Anything else y'all want to build on that?
Build on what? What is the you said there was an elephant in the room, that we have to confront the elephant in the room. What is the elephant in the room?
Well, I couldn't agree more with you.
What?
Kelly? If we're going to get to real change, we got to make sure that we're taking care of each other, that we're taking the time to check in on each other. A friend of mine sent me a text the other day that said, I have to check in on my strongest friends, because sometimes you take for granted that the people that are the strongest in your life, that they're okay.
I have to check in on my strongest friend. Oh, okay. What? Why are we here again? What was the subject of the title of this thing?
Sometimes we got to check in on those people too. And to do this work, it's not easy.
This work.
It's necessary. It's not easy. So we all, this is great to be able to have evolve that creates this community of like-minded individuals where we can have this safe space in this conversation.
Oh, yeah, a group of like-minded individuals in a safe space. That's where really real change is going to happen, where you don't have any opposition, no questions, no doubt, no alternative theories or perspectives. Yeah, that's really where change comes from, when you have an entirely homogenous landscape. Boy, oh boy. Also, in the chat real quick, Robert Gruber, hello, going back to the start. Well, just as a warning, and you're not going to hear it now because you're going back to the start, the first 5 minutes or so are dead silence because I forgot to turn on my audio software. I'll have to go back and snip that out after the fact. Halfway through AAA from yesterday, yes. Yes, for those of you that don't know, temporarily at least, as a sort of stopgap, I am co-hosting on the AAA stream. I'll be hosting the stream itself on my channel Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, as the lineup of the AAA stream is going through some changes, but Sinatra and Drunkle explained all of that on the AAA stream yesterday over on Drunken Uncle's channel. So there you go on that. Okay, I feel like I'm wasting the rest of the time here with this, but I don't have anything to do for another hour and 20 minutes. So yeah.
So I think spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on.
That just made me think about, we all know that a lot of organizations have small DEI teams, right? There's a team 1, 2, 3. And I think it can be easy to get used to doing it all by yourself all the time.
What is it? What is it? What are you talking about?
And so then making the time to really step outside of your organization to ensure that you have that network of people that can support you,
So DEI practitioners are all psychologically fragile, is what you're saying. It's just,
you can learn best practices from, that you can share your best practices with. But really making sure that we are all collaborating as a larger team, as an external team outside of our silo kind of individual organizations. I think that will really help us propel the movement when we're all on the same page as well.
Could any of you give us a specific example of a policy, practice, initiative, project you've worked on, a goal that you've set, achieved, or failed, and what lessons you learned from either of those?
Yeah. And I know we're getting ready to run out of time if we don't keep going. I think
we're about to run out of time if we don't keep going. Yeah. you're leading the conversation. You are the de facto moderator of this. Please.
This is probably a good idea that we're starting this preview of Keras Evolve now, because I'm
Keras
realizing we have a
Evolve.
lot to talk about.
Yes, you do. And you haven't said a thing in 13 minutes and 50 seconds.
And we have 3 hours together on September 12th. So if you have not
Oh.
registered yet, make sure that you use the link in the chat.
That's today. What? Oh my gosh, the link in the chat. Okay, wait. This is happening today? Like today? Hold on. I can't even remember where I found this. I can't even remember. Let's see. Where was it? Okay, there it is. Real tangible. Okay. Keras, whatever. Okay, where's the Dallas Chamber? Is this the Dallas Chamber events? Hold on. State of DEI and Keras Evolve. Okay. Oh boy. Oh my gosh. Presented by JP Morgan Chase and Accenture. Oh, Accenture was one of the first companies that really laid it bare what DEI was for me back when in like second year doing the channel. Oh boy, is there a link to like the show or something? Oh, look at this. American Airlines, Accenture, Access, whatever that is, Encore, Thomson Reuters. Oh my gosh, DRC, the Dallas Regional Chamber, I think it says, National Chamber of the Year, State of DEI, Tuesday, September 12th, 3 to 5:30 p.m. at the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum. Oh boy. Okay. There's no links to, well, let's see. There's a Twitter link. There's a YouTube link. Does that just take me back to where I was before? Dallas Regional Chamber. Oh man, I got to keep an eye on this. I'm going to have to keep an eye on this. Okay. If they stream it live today, man, I might have to come in and. Okay. Well, the timing is impeccable. Apparently it happens today. Oh boy. Let's see. What did I say? Scribbles said more in the first 5 minutes of the stream than these three did in the entire group thing. It's just incredible to me that, and it's not just our speakers here, but just time and time again, you have people who are obviously in this, they're educated, they've been working in this for years. They must have at their fingertips just endless stories, endless examples of what they do and how they do it and what lessons they've learned and things that they've tried, things that have worked, things that haven't. Whether I agree or not with what they're doing and what their ultimate goal is, why is it when you get 3 or 4 people together from this industry, it is like pulling teeth out of a rusty robot to get something specific, something you can actually consider? A few months back, and this is one of the more pivotal presentations I looked at, was this roundtable of DEI experts. You might remember this. It was called Unfiltered. By the way, a presentation which has since been deleted from their YouTube channel while all the other episodes have been kept up. I wonder why. Because at one point, they actually do give us explicit examples of work they have done. And in one case, one of the guys named the company and the CEO he worked for to help them hire Asian people into the company. He was very, very blunt about it. It was amazing. And I just thought to myself then, as I do now, is there a reason why they never give us anything specific in a public forum, or they're very hesitant to do so? Is there a reason? But here, again, Kelly came the closest. There's an elephant in the room. We need to talk about this. Really look in the mirror. Okay, here you are. But apparently this is all just some kind of like nebulous preamble for what's happening today at the Dallas Holocaust and Civil Rights Museum.
To be a part of Keras Evolve, and bonus points or bonus tips. If you register today, we're having a flash sale where we have provided the deepest discount on Keras Evolve at only $99. So act
Oh my
fast,
gosh.
use the link in the chat. This is what you're seeing right now is a preview.
Yeah.
We are going to be having great speakers from Takeda Pharmaceuticals,
What?
Alchemy Technology, Sabio Holdings, and
Alchemy. Never heard of any of these, but okay.
WebPT, senior level executives who are carving out time to share their thoughts on the strategies that are needed to navigate this climate, but also more importantly, to provide the strategic tools and frameworks that we can use.
Wait. The event you're talking about, if I didn't misread it or my early morning brain hasn't just completely lost it, is going to last 2.5 hours from 3 to 5:30. So in 2.5 hours, with as many speakers and whatever you're talking about being involved in this, if this is a preview of what I have to look forward to, it's going to be 2.5 hours of pablum. It's going to be 2.5 hours of just glad handing and self-congratulatory stuff and life coaching type. Come on. You can't give us anything here.
To continue to advance this work. The bonus feature of Keras Evolve. I know we go to a lot of conferences where we are talked at. We are building and designing Keras Evolve where you will have peer conversations. You will get to talk to each other in a guided way so that it's productive, because we like to be productive and efficient.
Do you? This has not been the best coming out party for showing off your productivity and efficiency.
But we will be helping you really walk away with an action plan and tangible steps that you can take using the 5 strategies that we're going to talk about that you need to successfully navigate this climate. So
you're not going to mention them here when the title of this little Zoom call was what again? Ready for a real tangible conversation about navigating this DEI climate. Maybe the trap is in the question that is effectively asked in the title. Am I ready? Yes, I am ready. I am ready to have that conversation. I am ready to know what it is that you guys are going to do or what I should do as an observer. Is that what this all was? Just a giant question mark? Okay. Oh, sorry, wrong button.
Devin, you want to just talk a little bit about the flavor of the experience of Evolve, and then Latasha will wrap up with you.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the spirit of Evolve is really about, as Tasha mentioned, creating that environment or atmosphere of care, and really kind of taking down the wall, right? Coming into a space where we're all family, for lack of a better word, but we're all kind of in this work together.
Okay, so how can you be objective? How can you be objective as to what you're doing if everybody's family and you're concerned about everybody's feelings, you don't want to get anybody down? How can you be self-critical, self-reflective about any of it if you're coming into it thinking we have to take care of each other? What evolution is going to take place without any stress? How and or why does evolution in the real world, in just biology, occur? What needs to happen to promote evolution? Stress, right? Opposition, difficulty, barrier. That's why you evolve. You have to overcome something in some way, shape, or form. You have to adapt to a changing environment. If the introduction to this entire thing is, we first have to take care of each other, well, now you're just being insulative. You're just being avoidant of problems. You don't want to bring stress. You want to reduce stress, your own and your fellow family members. There's no evolution there. You're just creating a bigger, or actually more constrained bubble to exist in. Okay.
And on the same page. So we've really created a space where we will have entertainment, we will have great discussions, we will also have some time to really reflect for those introverts in the room, but also time to really apply the things that you're learning and listening to, so that you can take that back to your organization and really get back to work.
Like I say, at least as quoted by our moderator, she's been in the business for 20 years. And again, after 20 years, I've said this before, I've worked for the company I work at for just over 15 years now. I have worked in effectively the same area of the business most of that time. But simply through osmosis, I know a little bit about everything. It's sort of like being the stowaway on the pirate ship, right? You learn a little bit about everybody's jobs. So if I had to give an elevator pitch to somebody about my company's product and what we do and what benefits we bring and how we have a value factor, and et cetera and so forth to them in the industry in which we operate, even though I've never worked in sales, even though I've had no formal training at my company for trying to sell the product or pitch it to someone or anything else, I could probably do it, and in a relatively informed manner, regardless. So with the collective decades of experience in DEI or other such things that our panel here possesses, why is it in a nearly 20-minute free-form, no boundaries platform, conversation, whatever you want to call it, nothing, not one example, not one war story, not one, I did this and it was a mistake and I learned this kind of thing. Nothing. Again, either it's just a very sad statement of the insubstantiability, if that's a word, of DEI as a career, or the fear of actually having to reflect and assess what it is that you do or don't do. I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I do own a couch. And in my mind and my imagination, the limitations of which are obvious in most cases, I can't imagine too many options as to why nothing of worth is really being said here. And it really doesn't give me any hope for this Evolve event that's happening later today in Dallas.
Well, let me say this. I'm going to start where you started from, Devin. We're having this event at the Holocaust and Human Rights Museum for a reason. It is not by happenstance. It's not by chance that we're having it there.
Because you want to associate your work with the Holocaust and human rights? Now, I know it's not by chance. It is one of the most dramatic possible showcases for this subject matter. And already you've allied yourself with the work of civil rights activists. So sure. By proximity, putting your work in the same line as working to prevent holocausts and enhance human rights. Yeah, I understand. It's very intentional.
This also marries with a exhibit that they're launching called Black Citizenship in the Jim Crow South.
Really? Black citizenship in the Jim Crow South. You're putting DEI as a movement alongside the fight against Jim Crow laws. Okay. What did Jim Crow laws say insofar as employment opportunities for people? And on what basis, on what element of someone's makeup did Jim Crow laws affect employment opportunities? DEI does what again?
Now, think about that for a minute. Because there are some parallels here.
Oh, yeah.
Where we are now.
You have no idea how many parallels there are, but I'm assuming that you don't see the same ones I do.
To our past. And I think really what we're talking about is how do we really think about these things that are difficult, that are hard, that we know that we'll get through, how it really impacts our present, but really what does it say about the future? Not just of this work, but the future of our region, of our country, and how all of us have this collective energy and this collective opportunity to really come together, to really impact real change. So I can't say enough about what you all are doing. I can't say enough.
You seemingly can't say anything except stuff. Collective, you say.
About Keris, Evolve, and the work that you all are doing.
Why don't you tell us the work that you're doing? I can't say enough about the work that you're doing, which is why I won't even detail the work that you're doing.
I just think everybody should be in the house on September the 12th.
Oh, I'm going to try. Yes.
That's our closer right there. I felt a little bit of Michelle Obama closing technique.
Okay, no, that's it. Done. Not going to go any that. No. Okay. No, that's it. Done with that. Okay. A decidedly informative waste of time that was, because if this is the preview of what has to happen later today at the Dallas Regional Chamber and the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum, boy, howdy, it's going to be quite the party. I'm going to keep my eyes open today to see if they're going to do any kind of live streaming. I'm looking at the Dallas Regional Chamber's YouTube page right now, and I don't see offhand any lengthy videos of like live streams of events. I see clips of different things, so it's possible they might not actually show anything until the future. But yeah, it's all like 1 minute or 5 minute long clips of stuff, so I don't have a lot of hope for it. But I'll try to keep my eyes open today to see if there's any kind of live stream, any kind of presentations otherwise. Expo Hotep. So this was a big advertisement. I suppose not a very effective one in my mind, but it was what it was. Beth Castleman, because they don't want to admit that they are full of bullshit. Well, this is the thing. It's like, okay, you're going to bring up the Jim Crow laws of the South. You're going to bring up the Holocaust, human rights, and everything else, and you're going to associate yourself with the struggles inherent to those events and histories. Okay, why? What is DEI doing that acts in opposition to Jim Crow laws? What is DEI doing that enhances human rights? And I'm not even going to go try to investigate what it has to do with the Holocaust, but it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And the only mild ray of hope to this was at the beginning where Kelly's like, we really need to examine the elephant in the room and really be honest with ourselves. Like, okay. And what would that be? And even she just kind of let it go. And then we didn't come back to it at all. Why bother, I guess? Why self-examine? Why assess? No self-doubt, no self-criticism, no challenging the status quo, but you want to evolve. Let's see. What else do I have on the docket? I still got some time to kill. I got about an hour. How are you guys doing? Man, brought to you by Goldman Sachs. Yeah, I didn't see them on the roster, but I wouldn't be surprised. Miranda Stone giving me the side eye for some reason. Not quite sure why. Miranda Stone is a mysterious one. Let's see. Giant advertisement. Yeah. Zero the Hero. If I had the money, I would jump on a plane this morning. What, like it's a wing walker? What's the point of jumping on a plane? Like it's a bed or something? Oh boy, yeah, Dallas. Dallas in September. I've been to Dallas before. For family, well, Dallas area, Dallas-Fort Worth for a family reunion kind of thing. It was, I'll tell you what though, for everything else about that trip, and I was only a kid when it happened, you want to talk about some of the best home cooking in the world, like 5 different types of fried chicken, brownies, iced tea. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you this, native Texans really know how to put on home cooked meal. Oh, I was a fat and happy kid at that point. Man, that was great. Let's see. What else do I want to look at here? I got to save my TEDx's. I got so many other TEDx's, but I got other things too. Ooh, how about this? How about this? And let's hope that the audio quality is worthwhile here. One second. Another lengthy discussion. I won't go more than another maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes till my alarm goes off and tells me that it's time to do work stuff. Because yeah, there's a nightly data processing thing that takes place, and it stops doing its work at a particular time of the day, and then it starts putting out the stuff that I need to work on, and that's around 4 a.m. my time. So I'll know when that happens, and then I'll definitely have to go. But let's take a look at a different subject altogether, shall we? Maybe, kind of, except there is at least one word in commonality, and that's, oops, well, that didn't work. Try this again, huh? Oh, is that why? I don't know. Hold on. Why? Why, oh, why, Delilah? My, oh, my, Delilah. What if I do this? No? No. Okay, hold on. 1 second. I tried. It didn't work. Let me try this. Oh, why not? Okay, okay, let me take out this here. Maybe it's there's a pound sign in this little video here, so maybe that's throwing it off or something. I don't know. Take out all the dashes and things and stuff. I swear I have another video here. This is live television, everybody, as those of you that were here at the beginning know, with the absolute silence I was doling out. Okay, something's wrong here. Give me a second. I didn't lose the stream, did I? I possibly lost the stream. Hold on. If you guys are still here, hello. If you're not, well, Houston, we have a problem. Let's see. There we go. There we go. All right, education upgrade. Let me zoom in that a little bit. Okay, so the title of this, roughly speaking, is Book Study Grading for Equity. Do you like grading for equity? I like grading for equity. How about you? Let's see. Tarai Deos. Is it Tarai? Tyrai? Terrier? Tell me true. I want to get it right. You know, and even if I give you like a accidental nickname on here, be fine. Okay, so book study. Let's go. No, this runs an hour and a half. I'm not going to go an hour and a half. I'm going to go for maybe 45 minutes, if that, and then I'll wrap up. But as a somewhat separate subject, but also
The following program is intended for an adult audience.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm in trouble.
It is separate from my work or that of any guest with any other entity.
Oh,
Welcome to the Education Upgrade Podcast.
that is a weird disclaimer.
I'm your host, Jake Schulke. To support this podcast, please subscribe on YouTube and check out the links in the description.
Oh, is there a video to this, or is it just... Oh, there is a video to this. Okay, I just want to jump... Hold on, I just want to jump ahead a second to make sure I didn't miss something. Okay.
What's more, teachers felt empowered by this work. Prior to this work, the ways their students behaved,
This work, the good work, the work. All sounds very spiritual, doesn't it?
what motivated them, whether they cheated or not, how much they understood or cared about their grade, had seemed to the teachers to be fixed and often chalked up to, that's how kids are these days.
Uh-huh.
But the teachers who tried these practices found that they could actually change students' attitudes and behaviors.
Uh-huh.
Students who had seemed unmotivated and even resistant to learning became more engaged.
Uh-huh.
Relationships between students and teachers, which had been based on compliance and a system of extrinsic threats and rewards, were now partnerships based.
When are you going to mention the parents in this process? It is such a sad state of affairs that every time I look at anything dealing with education, my first question is, where are the parents in this process? If the parents are entirely excluded from anything when it comes to the rhetoric of this stuff, I am very highly suspicious. Teachers are not gurus.
Based on trust, transparency, and perhaps most importantly,
Or should not be.
hope.
Hope.
Students persevered when they struggled,
Uh-huh.
took initiative, stopped cheating.
Stopped cheating. I'm trying to think, was cheating that rampant when I was growing up? I guess I can't tell for sure. I cheated once. I did cheat once. It did happen one time. I had the answers written down, or notes or something. It was like first, second grade or something. I forget exactly. I was a naughty little boy, and then it didn't happen afterwards.
And wanted to learn even after the test, all because of changes to how teachers graded.
No. It's not about changes about teachers. Okay. I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to do better because of the enthusiasm, the knowledge, and the passion of the teacher. I can remember excellent teachers who got me to want to learn and succeed because they made the subject matter interesting and consumable and everything else. I hated math. I still hate math. But I had an algebra teacher in high school who was grade A excellent, and he broke it all down, and his attitude and his professionalism and his ability to encourage you without being too saccharine about it. Great job. I had an anthropology teacher in high school who loved his subject matter. He would come into the classroom dressed up as historical figures for the different lessons and the different things he was talking about. It is the quality of the teacher's enthusiasm and passion, not the grading scale. The algebra guy, he didn't give you any leeway on the grades. Either you got it right or you did not. And if you did not, he would help you figure out why you got it wrong and help you towards the right solution so you could get the better grade. But his grades were stagnant because they were the expectation. That was the expectation. It's not the method of grading, it's the quality and passion of the teacher. Come on.
That's from the book Grading for Equity by Joe Feldman. I'm with Miss Morgan
Hello.
Torres Unger.
Hi, everyone.
This is the Education Upgrade Podcast. I'm Jake Schulke.
And so the upgrade to education is changing the standards, not enhancing the quality. Or I should say changing the standards of expectation. Okay.
So, Miss Morgan, thanks for being here this evening.
Absolutely.
Good evening to you.
Yes. Good evening to you.
I'm excited for you to be here for our first book study episode.
This is going to be fun.
I
I'm
think
really
so.
excited about this.
I'm so glad that we talked about this. The book came up organically in conversation.
Mhm.
I hope it's a critical discussion of the book and not just a, wow, this is so amazing, etc. and so forth. If this actually is a book study, if this actually is a critique, I hope so.
We mentioned it when you were on the podcast 3 weeks ago or so, and I was able to get a copy for you, and,
Yep.
and it seems like you're into it.
The buy-in is there. That quote in and itself was enough to buy my interest.
Man,
Okay, this is all very neutral so far. I'm waiting for some maybe balanced analysis.
and if you can hear that and not want to know what else is in the book, then we're different kinds of teachers, man.
Sure are. A little that
Uh-oh.
different breed action, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess so. All right.
absolutely. That's toward the end of the prologue.
Uh-huh.
And so anybody that hears this, I definitely recommend buy the book, but it's available in audiobook also.
Uh-huh.
And I benefited mostly from doing both.
Yes.
From first listening to it on the audiobook version, and I'll link both those in the show notes. And if you want to buy
Uh-huh.
it, use the link in the show notes to buy it.
Okay, well, proceed to sell me on it.
To help support this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But to listen to it on audiobook and then go back to the print book and make notes and do little page tabs and underlines and highlights. And I found that very helpful. The book.
Okay, I mean, that's at least hopeful in the sense that this isn't just like a cursory examination of the text. So, okay.
But if you can only do one, pick whatever one you have time for. If all you have time is the audiobook while you're on the treadmill, folding the laundry, do that. And if all you have time for is to listen to this podcast, then hopefully our book study will
Do it
help.
justice.
Hopefully. I mean, Joe Feldman, who, by the way, he lives in the East Bay, right?
Oh, real quick, because I did ask the question, and so obviously I hope to have an answer. Let me get it here. There we go. Ty Ray Deos. Okay. I will attempt, Ty Ray, to keep that in mind. If I see you in the future and get to say hello, I will try. Okay.
Right now, like he's a local.
Really?
He lives in Oakland.
Really?
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
or
they're in
maybe
California?
out in,
Oh, why am I
where he
not
lives.
surprised? This
And
is
anyways,
California.
He's in the East Bay.
Cool.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him personally. He's done a lot of great interviews. He's on other podcasts a lot, and maybe someday I'll get to talk to him on here.
Awesome.
Okay.
But this book's pretty recent. I think it came out 2018.
Uh-huh. That sounds about right. I was seeing a lot of grading for equity stuff around then. I've done a few videos on the subject. It all sounds very sketchy in my mind. It's like, moderating expectations because of an assumption of ability on the basis of someone's race and or ethnicity oftentimes. That's really what it comes down to, is as far as the examples that I've seen. Grading for equity, grading for equality of outcome. That's not a good sign. And I wonder if our speakers here understand that.
And we're recording this in 2023.
Yes.
So it's a pretty recent work.
Uh-huh.
Cites a lot of good sources, cites a lot of studies, very science-based, but has a good ethical appeal also.
Okay, so we're not doing a critical analysis of this book. We're true believers before we've even started the conversation. Okay.
The book's called Grading for Equity.
Yes.
And I know when I first got this book, my school district, to their credit, got a copy for everybody at my school.
Oh, that's a good sign.
And it showed up in our mailboxes, but I didn't know what it was for.
Uh-huh.
And just seeing the title and with the place I was right then, like we got it during COVID time.
Got it.
And so,
which was the prime time to take advantage of everyone's fear and insulation from the rest of the world to really hone in on the indoctrination.
Everybody was struggling, didn't have time to read a new book. And seeing the title Grading for Equity, I didn't know what that meant until.
Really? Boy, I was ahead of the curve than you, man, because I was stuck into that stuff back in 2019, something like that, 2018. Yeah, I guess it was about that time. That's when it really came to prominence.
I 3 years later read the book.
Oh, okay.
And now that I've read it and incorporated some of the stuff.
Wait, your school district sent you a copy during COVID, right? So we're talking 2020 through 2022, let's say, for lack of a better time frame. And you're only now reading it? Why didn't you read it back then? What did the school district not say, read this book? They just gave you? Okay.
Really think it's something worth sharing.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, kind of going back to audiobook or print, if this is a completely new concept that you're interested in, but not too sure about how much you want to commit to, listen to it first and digest it. That is, at least for me, that was the best way for me to approach that, not having something in front of me to follow along and read with. I did it while I was driving, but
okay, well, Again, the title alone tells me a lot, because if you know what equity means in the current context, the sociological current academy context, then you know it's already a non-starter. Grading for equality of outcome. What is the point of grading if the end result is everybody ends up at the same spot? What is the point of assessing someone's capability in a thing if the ultimate goal is just to bring everybody to the exact same conclusion? That's it is a contradiction. It is an oxymoron is what it is. And yet you guys are just all fascinated by it. The title alone tells you danger, but this is an important educational tool, huh? All right.
As I was listening, I was able to simultaneously brainstorm, kind of take notes with that. And so having that almost like a lecture given by listening to the audiobook versus having to kind of generate that, inflection or whatever by reading it, that would be my suggestion for anybody that's just thinking about whether or not to judge how.
Yes, I know how to decide how to consume a novel. Thanks.
You want to digest this. Audiobook would be how I started.
Totally.
Okay.
Listen
All
to
right.
it in the car.
Totally. Yeah.
You know, throw in the AirPods while you're at the gym or you know, whatever.
Okay.
Or you know, we're all going back to school right now. Like, do it while you're prepping your classroom or cleaning up after the kids leave.
Okay.
You know,
Yes. Can we?
If you get a half hour here and a half hour there, you'll be done with the book in no time.
Right. Okay.
So that opening quote from the prologue, that's toward the end of the prologue. That's literally the second to the last page of the prologue. And there's a lot in there. Some of the things that
there's a lot of words in there. Now that you've, made your notations and got your highlighters out and your tabs and everything else, you want to winnow it down to its core points
that he encapsulates in that kind of summative quote. Talking about the outcomes of having changed grading practices in a large group of teachers, starting first with himself.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you change the grading practices to where all of the students end up with good grades, and you point to that and call it an accomplishment, I think I see your problem. Do you see the problem?
And knowing the why and sharing it with people, helping them try new things. Some of those outcomes, students who had seemed unmotivated and even resistant to learning, everybody's picturing a kid in their head right now.
At least one.
Yeah, probably a group or a personality type. Students who had seemed unmotivated and even resistant to learning became more engaged.
If you lower the standards, life becomes very easy.
Imagine engagement from a student who appears resistant to learning.
You're not talking about changing learning styles or teaching styles or trying to change the way that you work with a student that has a different attitude. You're talking about the end point, not the process getting there. You're talking about rearranging the end point for an outcome you desire, not examining how you're engaging with the student. Okay. And, full disclosure here is as if is any big surprise. I am not a teacher. I don't have an education degree, but I've been through school a while, 12 years for public education, then an additional 4 years, community college, and then a 4-year college to finish it up. I've been through many classes, seen many different teachers doing many different things. I've seen engaging teachers. I've seen completely absent teachers. I've seen good classes. I've seen bad classes. You guys aren't talking about teaching. You're talking about rigging the end point. That's the title of the book. The title of the book is Rigging the Outcome. Come on.
Relationships between students and teachers
are irrelevant when you're grading for equity,
which had been based on compliance and a system of extrinsic threats and rewards, were now partnerships based
Yes, you're collaborators. You're complicit with one another. You're not simply teacher-student relationships, setting expectations and building somebody up to achieve those expectations. No, now we're cooperating together.
Just on trust, transparency, and perhaps most importantly, hope.
Oh, hope. Yes.
Why would you not want that?
Why would I not want that? Because I am not a child's counselor. I am also not a child's parent. I'm there to teach. I know things can get a little hazy in places because you're dealing with, young minds and children, and you're effectively, in some cases, I can see how a lot of teachers can see themselves or feel like they are just babysitters a lot of the time. I get that. Okay. But at a certain point, you have to understand you are there to set expectations and standards and teach them and grade them on their performance and their engagement. And you try to work with them because you're dealing with like 30 kids in a classroom and every kid's different and so on. But there's one element that helps along with that in preparing the child for the classwork every day. It's called the parents. Working alongside the parents, because you only have those kids for a few hours a day to teach them. They're going to have to get it somewhere else and at home. When are you going to bring up the parents? And do you not see the inherent problem with grading for equity?
I mean, even bringing it back to the very last sentence there, students persevered when they struggled. Is that not the type of environment that we want to foster? Right? Persevering through that struggle, taking initiative, stopping cheating. I mean, we'll get to it when we get to those chapters and whatnot, but saying
grading for equity is cheating. It's cheating. It's cheating the children out of an education by saying that struggle is irrelevant. You're still going to pass. What do you... Yeah, you remove the necessity for the students to feel like they have to cheat because the teacher's doing it for them.
How effective is your homework? How do you know that they're not getting help from mom, dad, or even a little bit more than help from any siblings with their homework? And
oh my gosh, you mentioned the family outside of the classroom. I'm honestly amazed. How do you know they're not? How do you know they're not? What's wrong if they are? What? Okay, that is one thing you can't control, right? If a kid goes home with the homework and says, "Mom, I got math homework," and their mother does it for them, and the kid doesn't learn anything, yeah, that's called bad parenting. How do you know? I don't know. I guess it'll come out in the tests you conduct in the classroom where they don't have any outside advice. And then you grade on that. And then you can take the parents aside and say, wow, Billy's homework looks great, but then when I test him in the classroom, everything's kind of off. Is Billy getting any help from his brothers or sisters at home maybe that's kind of stunting Billy's growth in this subject? Come on. Really? Thank you, Keldrig. I've always found that teachers who don't utilize their authority are just as bad as teachers that abuse their authority. Yes, it's about setting standards and expectations. You see, one of the things, amazingly enough, that school is supposed to also prepare children for year over year, grade over grade, is entering the world as an adult. And one of the things you have to understand, I would hope, and I know it's just a crazy thought as an adult, that you are going to have expectations, obligations, and responsibilities that you may not enjoy, but are necessary to operate as a mature and functional member of society. And some of those things are punctuality, having an assignment laid at your feet, and being expected to fulfill it to the best of your ability. And not just talking about the workplace, but in life, in regular old relationships and responsibilities as an adult. Right? If you just let it all pass, if you're just, it's cool, man. Oh, there's the beanbag chair. You having a stressful day? Don't worry about the homework. Sit down, read a comic book. It's okay, man. No. You have to have structure because that's how the world is. It is structured. Even in invisible ways, it is structured. Expectations amongst people, one to another, how to behave in a public space, and on and on and on. And grading for equity doesn't prepare anybody for anything. But yeah, okay, like I say, let's assume they're getting help at home. Let's say you're suspicious that the kid is not actually learning the material, but is just having it handed to them by a sibling or a parent or something. That's what a parent-teacher conference is for, right? Does the homework and the outcomes thereof reflect the in-class assignments and quizzes? If there is a disparity there, then maybe that's something to discuss with the parents in a parent-teacher conference, because that is supposed to be the collaboration there. That's supposed to be the collaboration. But okay, where do you go from here?
Seeing how cheating truly is not only impacting everything that we do, but it is generally a part of the culture of education. It is.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Grading for equity is cheating in the culture of education. Okay, but let's turn it around. All right, how does grading for equity stop cheating? Explain that one to me. I'm being sincere. I don't know how that's supposed to work. How does grading for equity cut down on cheating, especially if you suspect that cheating is taking place in the home environment?
It is how a lot of students and families navigate what they think is success.
They learn how to work the game, right?
Absolutely.
It's a game. When it's a points-based game based
And what is grading for equity again?
largely on compliance and task completion.
Yeah.
I remember living at home with my mom and my two sisters.
Yeah. Yes.
Spelling take-home homework where you have to like use a new maybe vocabulary would be a better description. Vocabulary homework where you have to use a word in a sentence.
Mhm.
Yes.
My youngest sister.
Yeah.
Shout out to little sis. One of the words was copy. And she wrote for her sentence, sometimes my mom does my homework and I copy it.
Excellent.
On her homework.
Kids say the darndest things, don't they? Moms, dads out there, shout out.
From the mouths of babes. But you and I just got done talking downstairs about how that parents want their kids to succeed.
Yeah. And you know what? Teachers want their kids to succeed. But when they're not succeeding and the results aren't coming in, it's more reflective on their careers than anything else. So how do you solve for that problem without risking your career? Grading for equity.
And if the family and the student perceive that the way to win at this game is through these other actions that don't necessarily include higher level learning,
like grading for equity, could they be more lacking in self-awareness right now? Thank you, Snubbers. My father once said his vet status gave in points on certain government tests. They want that for race, not military service. Yeah, they want to value a non-meritorious element of your makeup. This is like when I talk about ERGs, and classically speaking, you're going to find a veterans ERG alongside a women's ERG, an LGBT ERG, Black ERG, Hispanic ERG, and it doesn't. One of these things does not belong, because one of these things is reflective of someone actually having done something. Someone actually having sacrificed something, somebody being in a category of service, of action, versus someone being in a category of aesthetics. And that's always what's thrown me off, and always been sort of like this cynical comedy every time I hear about ERGs and they just mention offhandedly, oh, we also have a veterans ERG. It's kind of sad in a way. But yeah, veteran status, it's sort of like a diploma, right? This represents an effort I put into something, a task I completed. This is a reflection in some way, shape, or form of my effort, of my work, of my merit. Nothing about someone's aesthetics tells you anything of that kind. Right? Like my skin color, my ethnicity, my gender, what am I supposed to know about the quality of you as a person on the basis of that? And if I think to know the quality of you on the basis of any of those things, that says more about me than it does about you, right? At least that's how it should work. But yeah. So anyway, what were we talking about again? Oh yeah, merit grading. Parents want their kids to achieve, and they're sort of engineering it through cheating at home. So we're going to engineer it in the classroom instead.
Then they're gonna play the game.
Mm-hmm. It's a little more teamwork than we had intended. But there's, when you have a system and you learn it, that's how people become successful in all different varieties.
And again, how do you root that out without in-classroom quizzes and tests to see if the homework, A, is taking root, and B, is actually being completed by the student? And if you find a problem, you discuss it with the parents. Is it possible? You don't make it too accusatory. You say, is it possible that little Billy is getting help from one of his brothers? All right, because, the homework's coming in really good, but then when the quizzes happen in the classroom, there's a separation there. Am I just completely off base here? Thank you again, Snumberth. The counter to that would probably be, but I experienced systemic blah, blah. I don't need to prove nothing, unquote, like racial slurs at you as a battle scar. Yeah, lived experience and so on and so forth. I mean, there are places where that could become relevant, right? I mean, if somebody has been, demonstrably victimized because of what they are in some way, shape, or form, right? If you were actually really attacked physically or otherwise by a racist or by a homophobe, an actual racist or homophobe, that could be a relevant part of your story, obviously. But just to say, because I fall into this demographic, I obviously XYZ PDQ, that doesn't wash. That doesn't wash. And especially when you're comparing, again, an element of service and action versus just, I belong to this demographic. The two different, completely different things there. These things are not mutually exclusive. Let's see. Also, Lissa Leo, good morning. Rod Line, if I didn't already say good morning. There's a bunch of other people here that have shown up in the meantime. Wisped, good morning. The Voice in the Walls. Oh, what's this? It's been a while since I've seen you, Scribe. I'm glad to hear you're going to be filling in for the AAA meeting for a few weeks. I look forward to seeing what stories and topics you'll bring up. Yep, for the next, this week and next week, I'll be filling in. I'll be hosting the show myself on the Wednesdays. I have the Wednesday slot for the host. While Sinatra and Drunkle reassess things after a change and the departure of Polydub. That's more Sinatra and Drunkle's area to discuss. I'm just helping out. I was asked to be a wingman for a little bit, and I'm happy to help out my old YouTube friends. So yeah. As far as stories I'm going to bring up, well, the premiere one I have for the first episode I'm doing tomorrow, I'll probably read. It's a relatively lengthy article. I'll probably read it in full. I'm so curious to know what they're talking about, but we'll get there. Anyway, back to the nonsense. How much time I got here? About 15 minutes. Okay. Well, I'll go for at least 15 more minutes and then wrap up.
When we base everything on points, completely makes sense to how do I obtain the most? How do I get the most? What skills do I have? What skills does my baby have? That they're lacking that I can help with, because it's never seen as cheating. It's always seen as helping in that type of approach by some parents, at least.
Sure. So how do you approach that with the parent in comparing and contrasting homework versus in-class quizzes? How do you work with the parent to improve the child's outcome in the class? What weight do you give to the in-class assignments versus the homework towards graduation or advancement? If you don't say to the parent, if Billy's in-class assignments don't improve, he's going to have trouble down the road. It is the carrot and the stick, and you have to work in concert with the parents to bring the best outcome possible for the student. If the parents don't want to cooperate, you don't graduate the kid because you feel sorry for them. what exactly are you guys proposing to be done?
Sure. And depending on your perspective and what the task is, that could be completely valid. Because if it's not a valuable learning experience, then why wouldn't you just help them get it done if it really is busy work based on your perception and experience?
Absolutely.
That's why you have to look at homework as practice and put more weight into what happens in the classroom where it can be supervised by the teacher. Come on. Am I just off in La La Land here?
The prologue to this book.
Oh my gosh, the
kind of has
prologue.
2 sections.
Okay.
The first part tells a story of a principal who begins work at a school and encounters some interesting data. And there's no way we could do it justice other than to sit here and read the whole book, which I'm of course not going to do.
Can you at least give us the salient bullet points?
And I wouldn't be able to read it maybe as good as the professional reader or you. So definitely recommend everybody go read it or listen to it.
Why bother bringing it up if you're not going to summarize it? Please.
Preferably both. So this teacher goes to this school and realizes there are huge discrepancies in grading between teachers, even though based on all of the data one could look up, the kids are very similar.
Okay.
And in fact, they're performing in very similar ways.
Uh-huh.
And their test results are very similar.
Uh-huh.
Somehow their grades are not as similar as one might predict.
Wait. Their performance and their test scores are similar, but their grades aren't. Okay, so I'm assuming teachers be racist, yo.
And so the principal goes on to try to have conversations with teachers and learns that this is remarkably common. In fact, it's the norm for there to be wide variance in grading practices based on a number of different things that really come down to personally held beliefs.
Uh-huh.
Biases as well.
Well, beliefs and biases. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, biases, definitely.
Yeah, like?
And tries to have the conversations with teachers about that grading and is met with nothing but resistance.
There's plenty being left out here, a lot of insinuation and accusation without actually saying anything, but of course you're not going to tell us the details.
Hard, firm resistance,
to
the point of confrontation, union grievance, etc.
Wow. You're not gonna give us any more details, okay?
And it seems like a really common story. Morgan, have you tried to have conversations with any colleagues about how grading practices?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not having conversations with your colleagues about grading practices, that's a conversation that you need to start. It makes you better, it makes them better, but we find that at least the common thread amongst my 7th grade group that we've most recently found is that we give similar assessments. So I'm a math and science teacher, and my partner gives similar, if not the exact same assessments, but our grades and the discrepancy between an A in my class is not the same as an A in my partner's class.
Are the classes teaching different subjects? So just out of curiosity, I have pulled up the Amazon entry for this book, and I'm seeing if the little preview they usually give to the books include the prologue. And it looks like perhaps not, which is unfortunate. Let me check here real quick. Oh, here we go. Let me read this little section just for the heck of it. Yeah, and I think I might wrap up with this because I don't know that I want to watch any more of this, honestly, because it just seems like it's going to be a bunch of nebulous glad handing. Thank you, Frank Hubbard IV. I'm not shocked these two have struggling students. Yeah. All right, so this is from Grading for Equity, what it is, why it matters, and how it can transform schools and classrooms. This is on page 5 of chapter 1, I guess. Maybe it skips the prologue. Hard to say. Yeah, limited number of pages. Okay. This section is titled Grading as Identity. This is what jumped out at me. So let me read this, and then maybe I'll wrap up here. If I decide to follow up on this podcast, I'm hesitant, but we'll see if people really want me to keep going with it. Grading as equity. Maybe we struggle with discussing grading because we have very little experience doing so. Grading and measurement is rarely, if ever, included in teacher preparation programs or in-school professional development. As a result, the majority of teachers are left on their own to decide how to grade and why, and are unaware of the research on effective grading practices. Danielle, a middle school education specialist of 8 years, confessed, quote, "I couldn't even tell you exactly what I thought about grading. I just had undefined notions of what grading is and what it should be like, and held on to that," unquote. It's completely understandable that most teachers replicate the grading systems they experienced as students or follow the grading practices of their school colleagues. Okay. Despite this complete lack of training and support with how to grade, teachers' grading policies and practices aren't arbitrary. We apply our professional expertise and experiences and carefully deliberate over what assignments and behaviors we include in the grade and what we exclude, the relative weight of those assignments and behaviors, and the magnitude of consequences, rewards, incentives, and disincentives. And yet each teacher makes very different choices. If we choose to award points to students for being on time, raising their hands to contribute ideas, for working collaboratively, or for turning in work by the deadline, we believe that these skills are important in life and that a grade should reflect performance in these skills. If we instead prioritize the students learn the academic content, perhaps we de-emphasize or exclude those soft skills from the grade. If we want students to learn responsibility, we allocate a large portion of the grade to students' homework. If we believe that our grades are an important way to distinguish the top students, we grade on a curve. Teachers can even disagree on what makes a grade fair. Most teachers believe that students who try should not fail regardless of whether they actually learn. But other teachers believe the opposite, that fairness is honestly reporting academic performance regardless of effort. Because each teacher's grading system is virtually unregulated and unconstrained, a teacher's grading policies and practices reveal how she defines and envisions her relationship to students, what she predicts best prepares them for success, her beliefs about students, and her self-concept as a teacher. That's why challenges to our grading practices don't just offend our professional judgment, they can invoke an emotional and psychological threat. I suppose, yes, if you have decided as a teacher and you have a certain, leeway in deciding how things are graded, that if somebody comes in and criticizes you, so on and so forth, yes, but a good teacher should be conceivably open to criticism. I would hope. Oh, I left Frank's thing up. Apologies, Frank. Or also, there you go, Frank. I left it up for a while. Let's see. What was next in that? If the grading practices in this book are, in fact, more equitable and effective than what most of us currently do, the implications are profound and disturbing. We may have perpetuated inequities in our classrooms and schools for years without realizing it. Okay, so instead of leaving it to the teacher, we're going to standardize the grading structure based on equity. Okay. Our use of inaccurate and inequitable grading may have barred students from getting into the college they wanted, kept them out of honors classes, and prevented them from graduating. As Jillian, a 12-year math and science middle school teacher, courageously shared with me, quote, "As I'm learning these improved grading practices, I'm thinking about how many students I may have hurt in the past, and I don't want to go there," unquote. Yes, if you're being shamed into thinking that you have a guilt, okay. So speaking of emotional and psychological threat, to come in and say, did you know that you were an unknowing villain this whole time and destroyed children's lives and futures? Oh, I did. As I researched and learned more about the equitable practices in this book, I had the same experience as Jillian. Feelings of guilt, shame, and anger. How could I have not seen the faults in our traditional systems, the ways many of our current grading and assessment practices harm the most vulnerable students? Throughout my teaching career, I created the best curriculum I could, built the most positive relationships with students possible. But were my efforts compromised or even undermined when I graded? That can't be, can it? Though grades are so much a part of schools, they are never included in analyses of education equity. Let me read that one again. Though grades are so much a part of schools, they are never included in analyses of education equity, much less included in strategies to address the inequities. Can something so prominent in our schools be so innocent in the promulgation of disparate achievement? Can a grading system highlight a disparation between students' abilities? Yes, that's why they're called grades. They are a reflection of ability. If you set the standard of, can you pass this thing? Now, whether or not your expectations are reasonable is a different thing. But if you set a standard and you say, you must pass, here's question A. Do you answer it correctly or not? Do you understand the concept? Yes or no? Oh my God. Can something so prominent in our schools be so innocent in the promulgation of disparate achievements? Are we, by using, supporting, and not interrogating traditional grading practices, accessories to the inequities in our schools? Do we really believe that, despite initiative after initiative to improve the disparity in student achievement, our faulty grading system isn't somehow contributing to the intractability of the achievement and opportunity gaps over multiple generations? How can we, as professionals, caregivers, and moral citizens, continue to avoid a critical examination of our legacy of grading? And so the solution to this is to assume that someone needs special help based on what they are and adjust the outcomes in order that everybody get the participation badge. Yes. Yes. Could we be the villains? Are we the baddies? And if the if is the question over my head, then I must assume a yes, and then think of myself in a wretched state where I need to adhere to some goofy outfit where everybody comes out the same, regardless of their ability. And then I can point to the standard grading practice. It's not me that made this decision. I was following orders. I don't have to be held accountable for how I grade students. Instead, I'm going to rely on this book to tell me how I should grade students. Because obviously this is the answer. All other theories might cause inequities. This one certainly won't, because there will be no inequities because everybody comes out the same in the wash, I guess. Anyway. Let's see. Jordan 250. I thought they said grading wasn't taught. How is there a system in play? I don't know. I don't know. Contradictions in terms. Don't know what to tell you. Keldrick, my best teachers threw the goddamn book at me. You know, I get it. You know, you're in charge of so much. You feel, and rightfully so. You know, a lot of teachers, especially grade school teachers, you are the center of learning for an entire year for either the kids in your classroom, right? It's not until you get to junior high, maybe, where it starts being split up by subjects. So you have to be the Swiss Army knife. You have to be the all-in-one to a bunch of kids. I can only imagine the kind of pressure and sense of responsibility that can overtake somebody in that position. But that also makes such an individual vulnerable to being guided or misguided into a belief system about their position in life and the world beyond their actual remit. And that's where we get all these gurus and modern thinking about teachers as the center of the universe and how, oh, I'm here to set our kids on a trajectory to be good citizens and active participants in our society, all this other high-minded nonsense. And here we are again, grading for equity. How about grading for ability? Grading for merit? Grading for improvement? Grading for an outcome? Again, the danger is right there in the title. And yet everything that descends from that is a big question mark in my mind. Because you've already given me reason to be suspicious with the very title of the idea. And that is the alarm going off. One moment while I turn that off because it's annoying. So that marks the end of the stream for me, because in about 10 or 15 minutes, I have to be online and doing work. And I should probably brush my teeth or take a shower or something beforehand to wake myself up more so. As if listening to DEI talk and grading for equity talk shouldn't have already woken up my brain. A little bit more than it was. Yeah, anyway, those are my thoughts. What are yours? If I wasn't able to get to your comment in the chat over the course of the stream, please leave a comment down below. Also, leave a like, even though I do these kind of things very rarely, because fortunately, I'm not usually woken up in the middle of the night by a large crashing noise in the apartment above me. But when they do happen, they happen. Also, programming note, as mentioned, and you'll find it on my YouTube page, tomorrow, Wednesday, at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern, I'll be hosting the AAA stream with Sinatra, the AAA meeting. I have to correct myself. I always call it the stream. It's the AAA meeting with Sinatra Says and Drunken Uncle here on my channel. I'm sitting in for the AAA meeting, for this week and next week to help out and give them a wingman while they figure out what they're going to do next with the show. And then, as always, Thursdays. I got a packed week this week between AAA yesterday, this thing right now, AAA tomorrow, Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. There'll be, of course, TED Excellence. I'll take a look at another TEDx talk. Friday, AAA again. And then Sunday, I got 2 streams. At the Sunday show and then book review of The Vampire. I got a packed week, guys, as far as streams are concerned. Made only more so packed by the events of tonight. But either way, everybody, thank you surprisingly so much for joining me for this random little edition of my show, whatever show that is. Thank you all for sticking with me this whole time and participating and commenting and watching along and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for those of you that donated. I really appreciate your generosity. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved at this early hour, there's really nothing to worry about except for the future of our children, our collective children. I don't have any kids, but I worry about our future. I believe the children are our future. I really worry about the children of our future. But with that, everybody, thanks so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you guys have a good Tuesday. I'll be looking to see if that Kairos Evolve thing actually has a broadcast later today. That'd be something. If they do, maybe I'll do an ambush stream on that. I don't know. Hope you have a good rest of your Tuesday, rest of your week. Hope to see you Thursday night for TED Excellence, tomorrow afternoon for the AAA stream, AAA meeting. And with that, everyone, I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And please, unlike myself, get a good night's sleep when you can, because it really does help out with the whole thinking thing. Bye, everybody.